Rob, the Barclay tank engine, was feeling miserable. His recent accident had left him shut up in the sheds for several days. And when he was finally allowed out again, the other engines made no attempts to speak with him. Rob felt that this was one issue that would take a long time to heal. "Come on, old boy," said his driver. "I know you're upset, but you can't leave things like this forever. It'll be a miserable life here if you don't make any friends. You should explain yourself to the others." Rob huffed, but deep down, he knew his driver was right. One evening, Rob was preparing some coaches for Henry's evening train when he saw the fat controller walking towards him. "Now, I understand you've been doing well here since your return from the works," began the fat controller. Yes, sir. I have, sir," stuttered Rob, worried that the fat controller was still cross with him. In truth, the fat controller hadn't forgiven Rob for his recent actions yet, but what he'd come to tell the little tank engine was, in his eyes, a chance to prove himself. "Whilst I'm pleased that you've been doing so well managing the shunting, Rob, I'm afraid I have to ask you to manage the yard on your own for a while. Oliver has had to go to the works for retubing, and so I've sent Ronan to cover for him on the Little Western. Until he returns, I need you to handle the shunting here on your own for a while. Can you do it?" "Yes, sir. Of course, sir," said Rob with determination. The fat controller smiled. "There's a good engine." And with that, he walked away. Rob was true to his word. He kept things running smoothly. The passengers had stopped grumbling. The coaches and trucks were well behaved and prepared properly. And the other engines were impressed with how orderly the yard was kept. Of course, with only one engine handling the yard during the busy summer, it was hard work, but Rob pressed on. One night, he was exhausted when he returned to the sheds. "Phew," he panted. "The coal mine kept me busy most days, but it was never like the yard here. I think I've worked harder over the last couple days than I ever have in my whole life." "That shows the makings of a really useful engine," said Duck. "I can't even remember the last time I saw the yard running so well." "Even so," continued Rob, "though I enjoy shunting the yard now, wouldn't mind getting a chance to stretch my wheels." James rolled his eyes. "You? Going down the main line? Like that worked out for you last time?" Rob frowned. "I'm just as capable of handling mainline trains as you lot." Gordon scoffed. "You? A shunter like you wouldn't know the first thing about pulling a train." Rob glared at the big blue engine. "What's that supposed to mean?" he scowled. "It means," sniffed Gordon, "you're not doing so bad at keeping the yards in order, but you'd do well to remember that a bumbling little tank engine like you should know your place in the world." "Oh, so if I'm a bumbling little tank engine, that must make you a pathetic Pacific," snarled Rob. "You watch your tongue, little Rob, or what?" came the blunt reply. That was enough to cause a hasty argument, which lasted long into the night. Eventually, after the big engines had fallen asleep, Duck whispered to Rob. "Take no notice," he soothed. "They'll come around eventually." Rob appreciated Duck's words, but he wasn't sure about the big engines just yet. When Oliver finally returned from the works, Duck volunteered to help Rob shunt in the yard for a few days. And since scars from Rob's accident were still healing, Duck thought it best to take the little engine under his wing. The two engines worked well together and were soon chatting and laughing like old friends. They even exchanged stories about their time in Paddington. With Duck's help, it wasn't long before Rob got on splendidly with everyone. And soon, even the big engines had accepted him as part of the family. All except for one. One morning, the Fat Controller came to the sheds.
Several tracks leading into the yard at Elsbridge Junction are undergoing repairs. And so, for the next 2 weeks, I need a reliable engine to help deliver ballast to the worksite.
Sir, said Henry, shouldn't Donald and Douglas be handling that?
I'm afraid they're busy with their duties on the Little Western, continued the Fat Controller. And so, I need an engine to take their place.
Most of the engines looked away. They all had enough of their own work to do. Rob saw this as the answer to his prayers.
Rob, as your work ethic has improved greatly, I have decided to let you pull these trains. Would you like to?
Rob whistled excitedly.
Oh, yes, sir. Please, sir. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down, sir. I know you won't, chuckled the Fat Controller.
As the stout gentleman walked away, Gordon scoffed.
You? Pulling a train? What nonsense. You're just a shunter.
Well, at least my trains aren't likely to end up in a ditch, retorted Rob furiously. And with that, he huffed crossly away. Now, all trucks are troublesome, but ballast trucks are by far the worst. They are rude, noisy, and insufferable, and that's just to start with. Over the years, Duck, Donald, Douglas, and Oliver have learned to handle them with great care. Rob, however, wasn't aware of the truck's lack of obedience, but no one had thought to warn him. As he backed down onto them, he bumped them fiercely.
Watch it,
they grumbled.
Plenty more of that if there's any trouble,
barked Rob. Rob was quick to find out just how badly behaved ballast trucks are. They clanked and bumped about roughly, making the journeys very difficult and unpleasant. It wasn't long until Rob settled into his new routine. Each morning, he would collect a line of ballast trucks from the harbor and deliver them to the junction before returning to the big station for the morning shunting. Each time he passed another engine, he would whistle a friendly greeting. And each time Gordon passed, he would blow steam rudely at the saddle tank. A few days had passed, and the track repairs were almost finished. The workmen had just one more layer of ballast to complete, which was to be delivered by Rob that morning.
Come on, you lot,
he hissed to the trucks.
This is the last delivery, so I want no nonsense or messing about.
We'll give him nonsense, giggled the trucks.
They started off so quietly that Rob suspected he had them under control. Of course, he should have known better. Rob was making good time as he neared the junction. He had a fast run, and with a fully loaded train, quickly began to grow thirsty.
Almost there, he panted. It's not long now, and I can have a rest and a drink when I get there.
As they reached the bend before the station, his driver leaned forward to put on the brakes. But as he did, on! The truck surged into Rob, sending the train careening towards the station. Stop! Stop! Cried Rob, as the trucks cackled and screamed in delight. Then there was trouble. As Rob approached the station, he was horrified to see Daisy sitting at the platform, picking up passengers on his line. The points were already set to overtake Daisy on the other platform, and for a moment, Rob was relieved, until he heard a familiar whistle in the distance.
It's Gordon! Cried Rob. Oh no! The express!
Rob had to think fast. Whistling frantically, he got the signalman's attention and was diverted into the yard. They had been just in time. Gordon thundered by, aghast at what he'd seen. Rob lay on his side, feeling sore and sad.
No, I've really done it now,
he wheezed sadly. As soon as her passengers had boarded, Daisy hurried over.
Oh my, darling, are you all right?
I think so, Rob groaned in agony.
I've asked the station master to call for help. The breakdown gang should be here soon, reassured Daisy. I wish I could stay and help you, darling, but my passengers must come first.
It's all right, smiled Rob. I understand.
I'm afraid I must be off. Hope you get better soon, darling.
And with that, Daisy purred away, just as Edward puffed in with some trucks. Rob, he cried. What happened? Rob sighed sadly and explained everything. When he'd finished, he saw that Edward was smiling. Seems like your accident prevented Gordon from having his own. Rob couldn't help but crack a small smile. Soon, Donald arrived with the breakdown train and the fat controller.
Dear me, Rob, I don't know what to say. Seems to be one crash after another with you. I thought being an industrial engine meant you could control trucks.
Rob gulped and looked sadly at his buffers. Rob was only trying to prevent a worse accident, sir, Edward interjected. The fat controller spun round on his heels sharply.
Whatever do you mean, Edward?
Rob spoke up.
If I hadn't crashed like this, sir, it could have been far worse.
Rob then explained about the outcome of his accident. When he'd finished, the fat controller frowned.
Donald, help clear up this mess and get Rob back on the rails.
Yes, sir, replied Donald, and he set to work.
And as for you,
Rob prepared for the worst.
It's off to the works with you. Can't have one of our newest engines out of action so soon.
Rob beamed, and Edward whistled in delight. While Rob slept soundly at the works that evening, the other engines felt a great unease as the fat controller stormed up to them.
Gordon, he thundered, I am ashamed of you. You should know better than to make any engine feel unwelcome on this railway, whether they be industrial or not. I've also heard, he continued, turning to James, about the unacceptable comments towards Rob. He may have started off on a bad note, but he has since proven himself to be a hard-working, dedicated, and reliable engine. What's more, continued the fat controller, Rob has proven that he can perform exceptionally well. He takes any duty given to him just as seriously as any express engine would, and does not let the importance go to his smoke box. Perhaps when Rob returns to service, he can teach you two a thing about that. I also hope that Rob's brave actions today will make you both think otherwise about the character of industrial engines in future. Since you two dislike our new shunter so much, you can both take over the goods and shunting work, and only the goods and shunting, until I can trust you both to behave.
James and Gordon said nothing as the Fat Controller walked sternly away. It seemed like a long time since Rob had gone to be repaired, and the other engines were beginning to worry. Especially Ronan, who was missing his brother dearly. But one night, as the engines were being simmered down by their crews, "Here he comes!" The yard was filled with cheers and whistles as Rob came backing into the sheds. "Welcome home, Rob," smiled Henry. "We're certainly glad to have you back," added Duck.
"Indeed," smiled the Fat Controller. "Your actions prevented what could have been a tragic accident. I'm very proud of you, Rob."
Rob beamed, and the engines erupted into another chorus of cheering whistles. When the cheers died down, the Fat Controller turned to the Big Blue engine.
"Gordon, I think you've got something to say." "Oh, I'm sorry I was so rude to you, Rob," wheezed Gordon quietly. "You saved my passengers from being injured in a collision. Seems you industrial engines are made of stronger stuff than I thought."
The yard was once again filled with whistles and cheers for Rob, the Barclay tank engine. And sure enough, Rob was now a changed engine. He was much kinder and friendlier, and always willing to help those in need. He did so well keeping the yard in order that as a reward for his bravery and hard work, the Fat Controller assigned Rob to help out with the passengers and goods work in between shunting duties. When Gordon was finally allowed to pull the express again, he and Rob made up their quarrel, and the two are now firm friends. Rob had never felt happier. He'd finally found a new home and new friends.